For an unfiltered analysis of the 2020 presidential race and many more topics, we turn now to syndicated radio talk show host Rush Limbaugh. He joins us live from his studio. Good evening, Rush. Welcome to Special Report.
It's great to be here. This is a milestone for me, my first ever appearance on your program, and I'm honored to be here.
Well, thanks. You know, it's been a couple days since the Attorney General wrote that 4-page letter describing his conclusions from the Mueller Report. What's your assessment of the fallout since that time?
I think all the fallout's a bunch of distraction. We got to keep track of exactly what this was, Brett. There was zero collusion. There was no collusion. There was never any evidence of any collusion between Trump or his campaign and Russia. Zilch, zero, nada. They began an investigation based on a phony dossier that was created, excuse me, and written by associates of Hillary Clinton. It was opposition research. This is outrageous what has happened here. There needs to be an investigation into this. There needs to be accountability for everybody who participated in this, from people high up in the Obama administration all the way down and including most of the mainstream media. It has been 2 years that we have been distracted. This country has been placed through, it's gone through hell here. The people of this country were told their president was a traitor. They were assured their president had colluded, had stolen the election. None of it happened. And the special counsel has known there was no collusion since before the investigation began. There has never been any evidence of it. I don't care what Schiff says, I don't care what Comey says, or any of the rest of them. This whole thing is a manufactured coup because these people could not accept the results of the 2016 election, and they're continuing it, Brett. They are continuing to try. You look at Swalwell and you look at Schiff, their conduct illustrates that this is an ongoing political project to get rid of Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with finding out if a foreign power had anything to do with our elections, because a foreign power did not.
Well, you mentioned Congressman Schiff and Congressman Swalwell, both saying they want to see all 300-plus pages of the Mueller report, and they're saying there could be more in there. Take a listen to them.
I think he acts on Russia's behalf, and he puts Russia's interests ahead too often of America's interests.
There's ample evidence of collusion in plain sight, and that is true. There's a difference between there being evidence of collusion and proof beyond a reasonable doubt of a crime.
What do you think of that?
There is no evidence of collusion. The man is lying through his teeth. This is exactly what I mean by they're trying to keep this alive. I heard today in the New York Times, hey, guess what? The Mueller report's actually 300 pages, and Barr summarized it in 4. There must be something. Are they serious about this? They really, Pelosi and the rest, want us to believe that Barr is lying about what's in this report, that there is evidence of collusion in this report? If that's true, what must they think of Barr? What must they, and where is Mueller saying, hey, wait a minute, Barr is lying about this. I found collusion. I found obstruction. It's in my report. Mueller isn't saying that. Neither are the 19 pro-Hillary investigators on his staff saying that. This is, Brett, it's just continuing. Swalwell and Schiff are lying to the American people because they can't give it up. It is outrageous, and some of these people need to be held account. I hope the president calls a special counsel to look into this, because the American people deserve to know how they have been manipulated, how they have been used. They deserve to know what the Democrat Party and the American left, descending from the Obama administration, attempted to pull off here. And it better never, ever happen again. This is probably the biggest political scandal, certainly of our lifetimes, and maybe even longer.
The president called in with Sean Hannity and talked about the FISA documents that started this investigation. Here's what he said.
I have plans to declassify and release. I have plans to absolutely release, but I have some very talented people working for me, lawyers. I thought it would be better if we held it to the end. No, but at the right time, we will be absolutely releasing. And I did the right thing by not doing it so far.
So do you think you're calling for a special counsel? I mean, is there special counsel kind of overload with the American people?
What was that? Is there a special counsel what for the American people?
Overload. Is there people would be
well, there is that possibility. How else are we going to get to I understand another 2 years. Can the American people put up with it? I ask myself the same question. But the president is right. If he would declassify, you know what I wish he would do? Declassify everything to do with FISA and everything to do with this investigation. Then announce that he's closing the border and shutting down immigration until we can get a handle on it. And then pardon everybody that has been abused by this unnecessary investigation. You mentioned FISA. But for crying out loud, where are the FISA judges on this? A phony opposition research document called a dossier was used 4 times. There's not a shred of evidence in it. None of it has been corroborated. And they used it to get warrants to spy on the opposing presidential campaign 4 different times. And there's never been any evidence of collusion. I keep repeating this because I'm adamant the American people understand exactly what has happened here. This is a huge hoax that has been perpetrated that makes every other hoax in our lifetime pale in comparison. Not a shred of evidence. That FISA warrant, all 4 of them, were based on absolute lies put together by Hillary Clinton's campaign team. And they defrauded the FISA court to get warrants to spy on people with it. It's outrageous to me.
So you, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Mark Levin, a small group believed that from day one, and we could take you back to 2 years ago. You were saying roughly the same thing. One of the reasons we wanted to talk to you, when you go around the country, Rush, there are some people who support the president's actions, what his administration is doing, but they don't like the way he tweets or talks or attacks his opponents. What do you say to those people?
I say he should continue tweeting. Look at the forces that are aligned and arrayed against him, Brett. He has what everybody thinks is a media. We don't have a media in this country. There isn't a group of people going out and reporting the news and then telling us what happened that we didn't know about. We have Democrat activists. We have left-wing hacks that are disguised as journalists that are helping propel the effort to get rid of Donald Trump. The only pushback he has, the only opportunity to get his side of things out is via his tweets. So I hope he keeps, plus they're funny. They're great. I love having them to talk about, and I hope he keeps it up. It does. Look, I'm a Trump supporter, unabashed, and I love them. It doesn't bother me in any way, shape, manner, form. I have some people telling me, you ought to tell him to stop tweeting. I wouldn't. I want him to keep doing it.